So what would you say to an adult who, let's say, is 40 years old,
Mhm.
who maybe got as far as grade 10 math, and they want to start learning math again? What would you recommend?
That's a good question, and I think it depends on the goals of the person. If they want to go through the rest of like kind of the standard high school curriculum and get into some early college math, then that's a little bit less exciting, I think. But there's a ton of resources out there to finish up, pre-calculus and getting into the calculus sequence and all that kind of stuff. But I think the more exciting stuff is to say like, what kinds of things might you be interested in, and just get some basic understandings of some accessible concepts like or topics like number theory, which is just kind of playing around with properties of numbers, and you don't need a lot of kind of prerequisite knowledge to start doing that. There's cool things like graph theory where you basically play around with pictures of plots almost, and little diagrams, and you can solve really fun interesting problems. There's a really famous problem called the bridges of Königsbergs or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce the name. I probably should know this. I'm a math professor and I'm failing at all this remembering thing. But it's a really famous graph theory problem that's like super accessible to anybody. Um, there's a lot of fun, like basic probability things that you can do without knowing or needing to know a lot of the like high school algebra and college level algebra and calculus stuff. So honestly, I think I would really sit them down and just start going through some of the little fields of math that are really accessible without those background knowledge things. And there's a ton of them, and they're really fun. There's a lot of cool problems that I might try and introduce to people. Um, One of the problems that's like one of my favorite things, I do this demonstration with middle schoolers, and it blows their minds every time that I do it. I love it. Is it's a coin flipping problem. You probably all know the probability of flipping heads on a coin is 50%, and the probability of flipping tails on a coin is 50%, right?
Mhm.
So then there's like some pretty basic results in probability that is a part of a middle school curriculum that if you flip a coin twice, then you can count up probabilities. And it ends up being like there's this nice independence property, which basically I'll say like if I was looking for specifically flipping a coin twice and getting heads, then it's 50% for heads and 50% for heads. And so when you put those together, you get 25%, right? Half of a half is a quarter. And it's this nice multiplication property of probabilities. But there's this really non intuitive thing that says, well, what if instead of just flipping a coin twice and looking for a pattern in this coin flip in two flips, what if we like flipped a coin until we saw a specific pattern and kept track of all the flips, but then like stopped when we saw something like the most current three flips being heads, heads, tails. And we can compare the patterns, and there's not an equal probability of them happening. It's just this like weird, non intuitive thing uh, that's really fun to show. And you can kind of talk about some of the math behind that. That's been one of my favorite things to show middle schoolers. Um, I'd
Yeah, that
probably try and
sounds
find some of those problems.
that sounds really, I mean, I understood that. So, I think an adult that's just starting out could look into stuff like that too.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and those are fun things because you can sit down and just do it. Like I could sit down with somebody and we can grab a coin and we can literally just try it and observe what happens, and then start asking those like, well, wait a second, we're seeing this thing happening that we didn't expect. Why is that happening? And those, like I said before, those are the fun questions to start asking and answering. Like, why is this the way that it is?